We live in a world that glorifies connection, teamwork, and social validation. We're told that success comes from being surrounded by people, from always being engaged, from never being alone. But what if I told you that true strength, real, deep, unshakable power, comes not from the noise around us, but from the silence within? You see, being alone is not a weakness. It is not something to be feared or avoided. Being alone is an opportunity. It's a space where we find clarity, where we understand who we truly are, and where we build the foundation for the life we want to lead. The greatest leaders, the most innovative thinkers, and the strongest individuals throughout history all shared one thing in common. They embraced solitude as a tool for growth. So today, let's talk about why being alone isn't loneliness. It's power. The power to think, the power to grow, and most importantly, the power to lead ourselves before we lead others. Solitude is often misunderstood. People associate being alone with loneliness, as if the absence of others automatically means isolation. But solitude is not about feeling disconnected. It is about creating space to connect with ourselves. In a world that constantly demands our attention, where we are bombarded with notifications, social interactions, and external validation, we rarely take the time to sit with our own thoughts. Yet, it is in these quiet moments that self-awareness begins to take shape. When we are alone, we are free from the expectations and influences of others. In social settings, we often wear masks, whether consciously or unconsciously, to fit into roles assigned to us by society, family, or work. We behave in ways that align with social norms or expectations, sometimes at the cost of suppressing our true selves. Solitude removes these external pressures and gives us the opportunity to ask important questions. Who am I when no one is watching? What do I truly think, feel, and desire? What matters to me beyond what others expect of me? In the absence of distractions, we begin to notice the patterns of our own thinking. We become more attuned to our emotions, recognizing what excites us, what drains us, and what fears we have been avoiding. When surrounded by people, it's easy to be influenced by their emotions and opinions. But in solitude, our thoughts are our own. We start to distinguish between the ideas we have been conditioned to believe and the truths that resonate deeply with us. This self-reflection allows us to make decisions based on what is truly important, rather than what is simply expected. Solitude also enhances our ability to listen to ourselves. In the presence of others, our attention is often directed outward. We listen to conversations, respond to external stimuli, and engage in interactions that require us to focus on what is happening around us. But when we are alone, we can direct that same level of attention inward. We hear the thoughts that surface, the concerns that linger, and the dreams that may have been pushed aside in the busyness of life. Many of the world's greatest thinkers, artists, and leaders have recognized the power of solitude in cultivating self-awareness. They have sought out moments of stillness not to escape the world but to understand their place in it. Philosophers have retreated into nature to contemplate life's biggest questions. Writers have isolated themselves to gain clarity in their work. Innovators have stepped away from the noise to generate ideas that change the world. This is not a coincidence. It is in solitude that the mind can wander freely, make new connections, and uncover insights that remain hidden in the chaos of daily life. Spending time alone also strengthens our intuition. When we are constantly surrounded by other voices, it can be difficult to distinguish our own instincts from the influence of others. We may second-guess ourselves, seeking validation before making decisions. But solitude allows us to develop trust in our own judgment. The more time we spend listening to ourselves, the more confident we become in our own thoughts and choices. This self-trust is crucial in both personal and professional life. It allows us to navigate challenges with clarity, make decisions with conviction, and stand firm in our beliefs even when faced with opposition. Beyond self-awareness, solitude cultivates emotional resilience. It teaches us to be comfortable in our own company, to face our thoughts without distraction, and to process emotions without external reassurance. Many people avoid being alone because they fear what they might discover about themselves. They keep busy, surround themselves with noise, and seek constant engagement as a way to escape introspection. But true growth happens when we confront these thoughts head-on. Sitting with discomfort, acknowledging our fears, and understanding our emotional triggers make us stronger. We learn to regulate our emotions, to be at peace with ourselves, and to develop a sense of stability that is not dependent on external factors. This internal stability is what differentiates those who merely react to life from those who lead it. When we lack self-awareness, we are easily swayed by circumstances, emotions, and the opinions of others. But when we have taken the time to understand ourselves, we approach life with greater intentionality, we set goals that align with our values, make choices that are based on authenticity rather than need. Solitude is not a luxury, it is a necessity. It is in these moments of stillness that we lay the foundation for self-awareness, the cornerstone of personal growth. Independence is often seen as the ability to stand alone, but it is much deeper than that. It is the ability to rely on oneself, to trust one's own judgment, and to navigate life without needing constant external support. In a world that often pushes the idea of teamwork and collaboration, independence can sometimes be overlooked. However, those who cultivate independence develop a level of resilience that allows them to thrive in any situation. Resilience is not something that appears overnight. It is built through experiences that test our ability to adapt, persist, and push forward despite difficulties. When we rely too heavily on others for guidance, reassurance, or validation, we weaken our ability to handle challenges on our own. While seeking help is sometimes necessary, true strength comes from knowing that even if no one is there to support us, we can still stand strong. Independence is the foundation of this mindset. One of the key ways independence builds resilience is through decision-making. When we rely on others for every decision, we become hesitant and uncertain. We doubt ourselves, seeking validation before taking action. But when we develop independence, we learn to trust our own judgment. We make choices based on our values and reasoning rather than external influence. This ability to make independent decisions creates a sense of confidence that strengthens our resilience. Even when mistakes happen, we take responsibility and learn from them rather than blaming circumstances or others. Facing challenges alone also forces us to develop problem-solving skills. When we always have someone to turn to for solutions, we may never push ourselves to think critically or creatively. But when we are independent, we are forced to find solutions on our own. This process strengthens our ability to handle adversity. The more we practice overcoming obstacles alone, the more capable we become. Over time, we develop a mindset that sees challenges not as threats, but as opportunities for growth. Independence also teaches us emotional resilience. When we constantly seek emotional validation from others, our sense of self-worth becomes fragile. We may feel strong when we receive approval, but the moment it is taken away, we feel lost. True emotional strength comes from within. It is the ability to regulate our emotions, process difficulties without external reassurance, and find comfort in our own company. When we are independent, we learn how to manage stress, disappointment, and uncertainty without relying on others to lift us up. Another aspect of independence that strengthens resilience is self-sufficiency. Being able to take care of ourselves, whether emotionally, financially, or mentally, creates a sense of stability. We do not feel helpless when facing difficulties because we know we have the skills and mindset to handle them. Self-sufficiency is empowering. It removes the fear of being alone, the fear of uncertainty, and the fear of failure, because we know we are capable of adapting and finding solutions no matter what happens. Independence also allows us to develop a stronger sense of identity. When we are constantly surrounded by others, their opinions, values, and expectations can shape our own without us even realizing it. We may follow paths that are not truly ours, or make decisions based on what others expect rather than what we truly want. Spending time alone, making our own choices, and relying on ourselves helps us understand who we are. This self-awareness creates inner strength because we are no longer easily swayed by external pressures. When we cultivate independence, we also develop persistence. There will always be setbacks in life, but those who are independent do not rely on others to push them forward. They find their own motivation, their own reasons to keep going. This internal drive is a crucial part of resilience. When we know we can rely on ourselves, we do not give up easily. We push forward, knowing that even if the road is difficult, we have the strength to walk it alone. A major benefit of independence is that it reduces fear. Many people are afraid of being alone, afraid of failing without support, afraid of making mistakes. But those who develop independence realize that they have everything they need within themselves. They no longer fear being alone because they have learned to enjoy their own company. They do not fear failure because they know they can recover and learn from it. This mindset makes them more willing to take risks, try new things, and embrace challenges without hesitation. Another way independence builds resilience is through self-discipline. When we are independent, we cannot rely on others to push us forward, keep us accountable, or motivate us. We must learn to do these things for ourselves. This requires discipline, the ability to stay committed to goals even when no one is watching. Discipline strengthens resilience because it teaches us how to keep going even when motivation fades, even when obstacles arise, and even when progress seems slow. Independence also helps us build stronger relationships. When we do not rely on others for our happiness or sense of security, we enter relationships from a place of strength rather than need. We do not seek validation or emotional support out of dependence, but rather because we genuinely want to connect. This creates healthier, more balanced relationships, where both individuals bring strength rather than looking for the other to fill a gap. Through independence, we learn that setbacks are not the end of the road, but rather a chance to grow. We stop fearing failure because we know that no matter what happens, we have the ability to recover. The more we develop our independence, the more unshakable we become. Clarity is something many people seek but rarely find in a world filled with distractions, noise, and constant stimulation. The modern world encourages us to stay connected at all times, to keep moving, to keep consuming information, and to always be engaged with something outside of ourselves. But true clarity does not come from external sources. It is not found in the opinions of others, in endless streams of information, or in constant activity. It emerges in silence, in solitude, and in the moments when we step away from the noise and allow our minds the space to process, reflect, and understand. When we are constantly surrounded by distractions, our thoughts become fragmented. We jump from one thing to another without fully processing or understanding any of them. The mind becomes cluttered with half-formed ideas, unprocessed emotions, and external influences that drown out our own inner voice. In this state, it becomes difficult to know what we truly want, what decisions are right for us, or what direction to take in life. Clarity requires space. Space to think, space to question, space to let thoughts settle and take shape without being interrupted by the constant demands of the outside world. Silence allows us to listen to ourselves in a way that is impossible when we are surrounded by noise. In solitude, the mind slows down, and we begin to notice thoughts that were previously buried beneath the surface. We gain insight into our emotions, our desires, and our fears. We start to recognize patterns in our thinking, understand the root causes of our struggles, and see things from a new perspective. When we are always engaged with external noise, we react to life without truly understanding it. But when we take time for silence, we gain the ability to respond with wisdom and intentionality. One of the greatest benefits of silence is that it creates mental clarity. When we step away from the constant influx of information and distractions, the mind begins to organize itself. Thoughts that once seemed scattered begin to align, and problems that once felt overwhelming start to seem more manageable. Ideas that were previously unclear suddenly make sense. This is why many of history's greatest thinkers, artists, and leaders have sought solitude as a way to gain clarity. They understood that breakthroughs do not happen in the midst of noise, but in the quiet moments when the mind is free to explore without interruption. Silence also helps us distinguish between what is important and what is merely urgent. In the chaos of daily life, everything can seem equally pressing. We rush from one task to another, reacting to emails, messages, deadlines, and obligations without taking the time to step back and ask ourselves if we are even focusing on the right things. But in silence, we gain perspective. We can see which things truly matter and which are simply distractions disguised as priorities. This ability to separate the essential from the trivial is what allows us to make better decisions and live with greater purpose. Another powerful effect of silence is that it allows us to connect with our intuition. In a world that constantly tells us what to do, what to think, and what to believe, it is easy to lose touch with our inner guidance. We seek answers from others, looking for external validation instead of trusting our own instincts. but intuition is not something that can be found outside of ourselves. It is something that arises from within, and it speaks most clearly in moments of stillness. When we allow ourselves to be silent, we create space for our intuition to surface, guiding us toward the choices that align with our true selves. Silence also helps us process emotions in a way that is often overlooked. Many people avoid being alone with their thoughts because they fear what they might discover. They fill their days with noise and distractions to avoid facing difficult emotions. But unprocessed emotions do not disappear. They remain beneath the surface, influencing our decisions, our behaviors, and our well-being. When we embrace silence, we give ourselves the opportunity to acknowledge and understand these emotions. We allow ourselves to feel without distraction, to reflect without external influence, and to heal without suppression. This emotional clarity is essential for personal growth and inner peace. Creativity also flourishes in silence. The greatest innovations, works of art, and revolutionary ideas have come from individuals who took the time to step away from the noise and allow their minds to wander freely. When we are constantly consuming information and engaging with the world, we rarely give our minds the space to generate original ideas. But in silence, the mind makes unexpected connections, explores new possibilities, and discovers solutions that were previously hidden. This is why some of the most creative breakthroughs happen when people are alone, away from distractions, simply allowing their thoughts to flow. Loneliness and solitude are often confused, but they are fundamentally different experiences. Loneliness is the feeling of being disconnected, unwanted, or isolated, while solitude is a deliberate choice to be alone for self-reflection, growth, and clarity. Loneliness carries a sense of emptiness, while solitude is filled with presence and awareness. Understanding this difference is essential because it shapes how we experience time alone, and whether we see it as something to be feared or embraced. Loneliness arises when a person feels disconnected from others, even in the presence of company. It is not defined by physical isolation, but by an internal sense of being unseen, unheard, or misunderstood. This feeling can stem from unfulfilling relationships, a lack of meaningful connection, or an unresolved internal struggle. Many people who constantly surround themselves with others still experience deep loneliness because their relationships do not provide the depth or understanding they seek. They may engage in social interactions to escape the discomfort of being alone, but the underlying feeling of disconnection remains. Solitude, on the other hand, is a conscious decision to spend time alone, not out of rejection or exclusion, but as a means of self-discovery and inner peace. It is the space where individuals come to understand themselves without external influences, where they learn to appreciate their own company, and where they develop a sense of completeness that does not depend on others. Unlike loneliness, which drains energy and creates longing, solitude restores energy and builds self-sufficiency. People who embrace solitude do not seek validation from others to feel whole because they have cultivated a sense of fulfillment from within. The fear of loneliness often drives people to avoid solitude, but avoiding solitude can lead to an even greater sense of disconnection. When people constantly seek social interactions to escape being alone, they may never develop the ability to sit with their own thoughts, process emotions, or understand themselves deeply. This dependence on external company creates an emotional reliance that can make solitude feel unbearable. The paradox is that those who are most afraid of being alone are often the ones who need solitude the most, as it provides the opportunity to confront and resolve the underlying discomfort they are trying to escape. Solitude offers a space for self-awareness, allowing individuals to tune in to their thoughts, emotions, and desires without external noise. When people are alone, they have the opportunity to reflect on their values, goals, and personal growth. In a world that constantly demands attention and engagement, solitude provides a necessary pause, a chance to reset, realign, and gain perspective. This ability to be present with oneself without distraction leads to a deeper understanding of personal motivations and a stronger sense of direction in life. Another key difference between loneliness and solitude is that loneliness is often rooted in external circumstances, while solitude is a state of mind. A person can be surrounded by people and still feel lonely if they lack meaningful connections. Conversely, a person can be alone and feel completely at peace if they have cultivated an inner sense of security and fulfillment. This distinction highlights that loneliness is not solved by simply being around others, but by developing a connection with oneself. The more comfortable a person becomes in their own company, the less dependent they become on external validation to feel whole. Embracing solitude also strengthens emotional resilience. Those who avoid being alone may struggle to handle challenges independently because they have not developed the ability to self-soothe, process emotions, or find solutions without external input. On the other hand, individuals who regularly spend time in solitude learn to regulate their emotions, trust their intuition, and navigate life's uncertainties with confidence. They do not fear silence or stillness because they have made peace with themselves. This inner stability allows them to form healthier relationships as they engage with others from a place of wholeness rather than need. Solitude fosters creativity and deep thinking as it provides the mental space necessary for ideas to form without distraction. Many of history's greatest minds have credited solitude as an essential part of their creative process. Writers, artists, and philosophers have sought solitude not because they disliked people, but because they understood that uninterrupted time alone allowed them to access deeper levels of thought and insight. Without the constant pull of social interactions and external noise, the mind is free to explore, make new connections, and generate ideas that would otherwise remain undiscovered. The fear of being alone is often a reflection of unresolved internal struggles. When people avoid solitude, it is sometimes because they do not want to confront their thoughts, emotions, or insecurities. Instead, they seek distractions to keep these feelings at bay. However, true personal growth occurs when individuals have the courage to face themselves without avoidance. Solitude provides a space for healing, self-reflection, and inner work that ultimately leads to a stronger, more self-aware individual. In contrast, loneliness persists when a person seeks fulfillment solely from external sources. When self-worth is dependent on relationships, social approval, or constant interaction, it creates a cycle where a person is never truly satisfied. They may seek companionship to fill a void, but because the void comes from within, no amount of external connection can fully resolve it. The only way to break this cycle is by developing a sense of self-contentment that does not rely on others. When solitude is embraced, it becomes a source of strength rather than discomfort. Choosing solitude does not mean rejecting relationships or isolating oneself permanently. It simply means recognizing the importance of spending time alone as a means of self-discovery, clarity, and emotional growth. It is the foundation that allows for deeper, more meaningful connections with others, because those who are comfortable in their own company do not seek relationships out of need, but out of genuine connection. Instead of fearing solitude, it should be seen as a valuable opportunity, one that fosters self-reliance, builds emotional strength, and creates a deeper understanding of oneself and the world. Self-reliance is the ability to depend on oneself for emotional, mental, and practical needs. It is the foundation of personal strength, allowing individuals to navigate life's challenges without excessive dependence on external sources. Many people grow up believing that they must always look to others for guidance, support, or validation. But true independence comes from the realization that everything needed to succeed and thrive already exists within. When a person becomes self-reliant, they gain confidence in their own abilities, make decisions with greater clarity, and develop the resilience necessary to handle adversity. The path to self-reliance begins with trust in one's own judgment. Many people hesitate when making decisions because they fear making mistakes or disappointing others. They seek reassurance, asking for multiple opinions before acting, and sometimes avoid decisions altogether out of fear of failure. However, relying too much on external input weakens confidence in personal intuition and reasoning. Learning to trust one's own choices, even when the outcome is uncertain, is an essential step towards self-reliance. Mistakes may happen, but they become opportunities for learning rather than reasons to doubt oneself. Every independent decision strengthens the ability to face future challenges with greater confidence. Developing self-reliance also requires taking full responsibility for one's actions, emotions, and circumstances. It is easy to blame external factors when things go wrong, to hold other people, circumstances, or luck responsible for setbacks. However, shifting responsibility outward diminishes personal power. When individuals take ownership of their lives, they recognize that they have control over how they respond to situations. This mindset removes the feeling of helplessness and replaces it with a sense of empowerment. No longer waiting for external factors to change, self-reliant individuals create their own opportunities, adapt to difficulties, and find solutions independently. One of the most valuable aspects of self-reliance is emotional independence. Many people rely on others to regulate their emotions, seeking constant reassurance, validation, or comfort from external sources. While support from loved ones is important, it should not be the foundation of emotional stability. True strength comes from within, from the ability to process emotions without needing someone else to provide comfort or direction. Those who cultivate emotional independence develop resilience, as they do not crumble under pressure or lose themselves when external validation is absent. They learn to self-soothe, reflect, and navigate emotional difficulties with inner strength rather than external dependency. Financial self-reliance is another crucial element. While financial security does not define a person's worth, it significantly impacts personal freedom. When individuals rely entirely on others for financial support, they become limited in their choices and dependent on external circumstances. The ability to provide for oneself creates a sense of autonomy, allowing for greater control over life decisions. Financial self-reliance is not about wealth. It is about the ability to meet one's own needs, make independent choices, and avoid reliance on uncertain external support. It fosters a sense of stability that removes fear and increases confidence in navigating the world. Self-reliant individuals also take initiative rather than waiting for others to guide them. They recognize that success does not come from passively waiting, but from actively taking steps toward their goals. When people rely too much on others for motivation, direction, or problem solving, they remain stuck, unable to move forward without external influence. But those who embrace self-reliance do not wait for perfect conditions or external approval. They take action, adapt to challenges, and create their own opportunities. This proactive mindset leads to greater achievement and a stronger sense of personal fulfillment. One of the biggest challenges to self-reliance is the fear of being alone. Many people associate independence with isolation, believing that relying on oneself means pushing others away. However, true self-reliance is not about rejecting relationships. It is about entering relationships from a place of strength rather than need. Those who are self-reliant do not seek relationships out of desperation or dependency, but out of genuine connection. They do not expect others to complete them, fix their problems, or provide constant validation. Instead, they build relationships based on mutual respect and shared growth, rather than reliance on one another for emotional survival. Another key aspect of self-reliance is problem solving. Those who are overly dependent on others often struggle to find solutions on their own, quickly seeking help or guidance whenever difficulties arise. But self-reliant individuals develop critical thinking skills that allow them to analyze situations, evaluate options, and find creative solutions. This ability to problem solve independently builds confidence, as it reinforces the idea that no challenge is insurmountable. With each obstacle overcome, the belief in one's own capabilities grows, creating a cycle of increasing self-assurance and adaptability. The journey towards self-reliance also involves self-discipline. Without the ability to hold oneself accountable, it becomes difficult to achieve goals, maintain consistency, or overcome challenges. Those who rely on external pressure to stay motivated often struggle when that pressure is removed. But self-disciplined individuals do not need others to push them forward. They set their own standards, follow through on commitments, and maintain progress even when no one is watching. This inner discipline creates long-term success because it is built on personal commitment rather than external expectation. Growth is a process that requires stepping into discomfort, facing challenges, and embracing the unknown. Many people desire progress, but resist the discomfort that comes with it. Growth does not happen in moments of ease. It happens when individuals push beyond their limits, test their abilities, and confront their fears. Every breakthrough, every transformation, and every achievement is the result of discomfort being embraced rather than avoided. Those who understand this principle do not seek comfort as their primary goal, but instead look for opportunities to challenge themselves and evolve. Discomfort is often seen as something to be avoided, but it is actually a signal of progress. When something feels difficult, when there is resistance, when there is uncertainty, it often means that growth is occurring. The mind and body adapt only when they are pushed beyond their current state. A person who lifts weights does not build strength by staying within their comfort zone. They must continually increase resistance to grow stronger. The same is true in life. Mental, emotional, and personal growth all require a level of challenge that forces adaptation and improvement. Many people remain stuck in the same patterns because they fear discomfort. They choose familiarity over growth, even if that familiarity keeps them in an unfulfilling job, a stagnant relationship, or a life that does not reflect their true potential. The comfort zone is a place where things feel safe and predictable, but it is also where dreams go unfulfilled and potential remains untapped. Growth demands stepping outside of that zone, taking risks, and being willing to face temporary discomfort for long-term reward. One of the greatest benefits of embracing discomfort is the development of resilience. When a person consistently pushes themselves into uncomfortable situations, they become more adaptable, more confident, and less afraid of failure. They learn that discomfort is not something to be feared, but something to be navigated. Every time they face a difficult challenge, they build mental and emotional strength. They begin to see obstacles not as barriers, but as stepping stones to their next level of growth. Fear is one of the biggest reasons people avoid discomfort. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of uncertainty. These emotions keep people trapped in situations that no longer serve them. But those who grow the most are not those who never experience fear. They are the ones who act despite it. They understand that fear is a natural part of growth, a sign that they are stepping into new territory. Instead of allowing fear to dictate their choices, they use it as motivation to keep moving forward. Another key aspect of growth is learning to embrace failure as part of the process. Many people avoid taking risks because they do not want to fail, but failure is not the opposite of success. It is a step toward it. Every successful person has experienced setbacks, mistakes, and failures along the way. The difference between those who succeed and those who remain stuck is that successful individuals see failure as feedback, as a learning opportunity, rather than a reason to stop trying. They adjust, they improve, and they try again, knowing that growth happens through persistence. Discomfort also forces individuals to develop new skills. When a person is put in a challenging situation, they must learn how to adapt, problem solve, and think differently. This process builds competence and confidence. Those who never challenge themselves remain in the same skill set, never expanding their capabilities. But those who actively seek discomfort by learning new things, taking on challenges, and stepping into unfamiliar situations continuously improve and open new doors for themselves. Growth is not always a visible or immediate process. Many times it happens in small, incremental steps that may not seem significant at first, but over time, these small challenges compound, leading to significant transformation. The person who consistently pushes themselves to improve, even in small ways, eventually becomes unrecognizable from who they once were. Growth is not about giant leaps. It is about consistent, intentional effort over time. One of the biggest shifts in mindset that leads to growth is changing the relationship with failure and discomfort. Instead of seeing them as negative experiences, they can be reframed as necessary parts of the journey. Those who grow the most are not those who have had the easiest path, but those who have faced difficulties head-on and kept going. They develop a mindset of perseverance, knowing that every challenge they overcome makes them stronger, wiser, and more capable. The process of growth also requires patience. Many people expect immediate results and become discouraged when they do not see progress right away. But real growth is not instant. It takes time, consistency, and effort. Just as a tree does not grow overnight, personal development requires persistence. Those who stay committed, even when results are not immediately visible, are the ones who ultimately achieve lasting change. Growth is also deeply connected to mindset. Those who believe in their ability to learn, adapt, and improve are the ones who make the most progress. A fixed mindset, where people believe their abilities are static, prevents growth. But a growth mindset, where challenges are seen as opportunities to improve, creates endless possibilities. The way a person thinks about their potential directly influences their willingness to push through discomfort and embrace challenge. Surrounding oneself with the right influences is also a crucial part of growth. Those who spend time with people who challenge them, inspire them, and push them to be better naturally grow at a faster rate. On the other hand, spending time in environments that reinforce comfort and stagnation makes growth more difficult. The people and experiences individuals expose themselves to shape their mindset, motivation, and willingness to embrace discomfort. Ultimately, growth is a choice. It requires a willingness to be uncomfortable, to take risks, and to step into the unknown. It demands persistence, resilience, and the ability to see setbacks as part of the process. Those who embrace growth understand that the most rewarding experiences in life do not come from staying in the comfort zone, but from pushing beyond it. Every challenge faced, every failure overcome, and every discomfort embraced is a step toward becoming stronger, wiser, and more capable of achieving one's full potential.